My dear ones, come closer and make yourselves comfortable. Take a deep breath with me, because what I'm about to share isn't light, nor easy, nor something told without leaving footprints on the heart. My name? Well, you can call me Grandma Rose, like most folks do around here. I'm 76 years old, and I've lived long enough to learn that sometimes the loudest battles aren't fought outside, but inside our homes, inside our souls. I was born and raised in a tiny rural town called Willow Creek, tucked between the Tennessee and Kentucky borders. It was one of those places where the wind carried gossip faster than the mail, and where neighbors argued over fences but still shared pies on Sundays. Life there was quiet, sometimes painfully quiet. Today, I still live in Willow Creek, but not the same life I once knew. Not the one where every day felt like walking barefoot over broken glass. No, my loves, today I live in a small wooden cottage with peeling white paint and ivy climbing up the porch rails like nature trying to reclaim what was broken. And here I finally breathe. Every morning before the sun fully rises, I water the plants in my little front garden. Roses mostly, of course, some lavender, a stubborn fern, and a row of bright marigolds. Flowers saved me. Sounds dramatic, I know, but when you've lived through storms, you learn to treasure anything that grows, anything that survives. My routine is simple now. Water the garden, make my coffee thick and warm, butter a slice of bread, and sit in my old rocking chair on the porch, sometimes humming hymns, sometimes just listening to the wind. And while I sit there, I thank God for peace, even if it arrived decades late. The rocking chair beneath me creaks just a little, the same way my bones do. On the small side table rests my rosary, my glasses, and a faded photograph of the grandchildren I chose with my heart. Not the ones who share my blood, but share my love. Before I continue, I have one small favor to ask. If my story reaches a place inside you, somewhere tender, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Grandmother's Tales, so more hearts wandering through heavy memories can find their way here too. Now, take a breath, my dear ones, because what I'm about to tell you explains how a young girl with hope in her eyes became a woman who learned survival the hard way. And the first blow didn't come from a stranger. It came from someone who was supposed to protect me. I grew up believing that family meant safety, that the people under your roof were the ones who would protect you from the world. But sometimes, it's the ones closest to you who hold the sharpest knives. My father, Howard Miller, was a man carved from old pride and harder expectations. To most people in Willow Creek, he was respected, a man who spoke few words but carried authority in the way he walked. But respect is a strange thing. Sometimes people mistake fear for admiration. Inside our home, he wasn't the quiet, composed man everyone else saw. He was unpredictable, like a storm no one could outrun. If he came home in silence, Mama and I held our breath. If he slammed the door, we prayed. My mother, Elaine, was gentler than morning light. She never raised her voice, never fought back, never questioned. Some would say she was patient, others would say she was afraid. I didn't understand it then. I do now. Children learn love from the examples they are given, not the ones they wish for. Despite the tension in our house, I held on to hope. I poured my dreams into my school books, into sunsets, into whispered prayers under the covers at night. And as I grew older, I promised myself one thing. My future family would never feel the fear I grew up with. But life has a habit of repeating patterns when we don't recognize them. By the time I turned 23, I met a man named Samuel Reed. He was charming, attentive, and had a smile so warm it could melt January frost. He complimented my cooking, listened to my stories, and told me I deserved more than I ever had. For the first time, I felt seen. My mother said, with tears in her eyes, "Maybe this is the life you were praying for." And I believed her. Samuel and I got married in a small church with stained glass windows and a choir that sounded like angels learning how to weep. At that moment, I thought my story was changing. But sometimes, the trouble you think you've escaped finds a new face, a new voice, and a new doorway into your life. Because on our wedding night, before the gifts were opened, before the flowers wilted, before the lipstick faded, Samuel whispered something into my ear that chilled me straight to my bones. Words I had heard before, words I never thought I'd hear again. A wife should know her place. That night, the past didn't return. It simply removed its mask. The first time Samuel raised his voice, I told myself it was stress. The first time he slammed a door close enough to startle me, I told myself he was tired. The first time he grabbed my wrist a little too tightly, I told myself it wasn't intentional. That's how it begins. Not with violence, but with excuses. At first, there were good days. Days when Samuel cooked dinner, kissed my forehead, and laughed with me until our ribs hurt. Days when I believed we were building something real. But gradually, those days became fewer. The man who once held me with tenderness began holding me with control. Every decision, how I spoke, how I dressed, who I visited, slowly shifted into his territory, like land taken without negotiation. One afternoon, after I returned from visiting my mother, Samuel asked, almost casually, "Did you tell her I told you not to go?" I blinked, confused. Of course not. Why would I? He stared at me, long, quiet, unblinking, the kind of silence that fills a room like smoke. He finally muttered, "You're starting to forget." Forget what? I wanted to ask. But the truth was, I knew exactly what he meant. He meant submission. And I wasn't used to shrinking. The control became routine. He criticized the way I cut vegetables, the way I folded laundry, the way I breathed too loudly when nervous. He always framed it as improvement, as if molding clay, not crushing a person. People on the outside never noticed. Samuel knew how to perform kindness like a well-rehearsed role. He opened doors for me in public, complimented me loud enough for others to hear, smiled as though love lived in his bones. But behind closed doors, his love was conditional. Silence became the currency of peace. The less I spoke, the fewer storms I faced. And slowly, without realizing it, I began disappearing, piece by piece. My mother visited once and paused as she looked at me, her eyes narrowing in concern. "Rose, you're quieter. Not the good kind of quiet, the scared kind of quiet." I waved it off, pretending her words didn't slice me open. But that night, alone in the bathroom, I stared at my reflection, someone I barely recognized, and one question echoed. When did I stop belonging to myself?
I wasn't ready to say it out loud back then, but deep down, I knew Samuel wasn't my protector. He had become my cage. One moment can change everything, and mine arrived the night I realized my silence was the very thing keeping me trapped.
Sometimes life doesn't change in a day. It changes in a single moment. A moment so sharp, it cuts through every excuse you've held on to, every lie you've told yourself to survive. For me, that moment came one late autumn evening. Samuel walked into the house with a temper already simmering beneath his skin. I could feel it the way you feel a storm before the clouds gather. His jaw was tight, footsteps heavy, energy bitter. "What took you so long with dinner?" he snapped, tossing his jacket carelessly across the couch. I swallowed. "I was waiting for you to come home so the food wouldn't get cold." He scoffed, a small sound, but sharp enough to slice pride. "So now you're blaming me for your lack of planning?" I didn't answer. Silence was safer. But that night, silence wasn't protection, it was fuel. Samuel stepped closer, too close, his breath warm, but his expression icy. He reached forward, gripping my chin between his fingers, forcing me to meet his eyes. "You forget your place when you're left alone too long," he murmured, his voice slow, almost calm. And then, as if it meant nothing, he shoved the dinner plate off the table. The food splattered across the floor, the plate shattered, and I stood frozen. That sound, the breaking, echoed louder inside me than in the room. Because something broke in me too. Not my spirit, my tolerance. Samuel waited for my reaction, expecting tears, apologies, fear. But I didn't move. Instead, I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time, I didn't see the man I married. I saw my father's shadow wearing a different name. I saw history repeating itself. And I felt rage push back against the fear that had been living inside me. Not loud rage, silent rage, steady rage. Samuel ordered, turning away as if the matter were settled. I didn't bend down. I didn't respond. I simply whispered. Not to him, but to myself. No more. He paused, sensing something had shifted, but didn't understand what. Not yet. But I knew. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat in the dark living room with a notebook in my hands, making a plan, step by step, quietly reclaiming the power I had surrendered. I wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. But for the first time, I was preparing to. The day I finally walked away wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the life I deserved. The day I finally left wasn't dramatic. There were no slammed doors, no screaming matches, no final tear-filled arguments. It was quiet, almost peaceful, like the calm after a devastating storm. Samuel left early that morning for work. Unaware that anything in our world had shifted, he kissed the top of my head, out of habit, not affection, and walked out the door, assuming I would still be waiting when he returned. But I already knew I would never sit and wait again. The moment the door clicked shut, my heart began racing, not in fear, but in anticipation. I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out a suitcase I had hidden weeks before. I packed slowly, intentionally, not rushing, not panicking. Every folded shirt, every book, every small possession felt symbolic, like reclaiming pieces of myself he tried to erase. I left behind anything that wasn't mine, gifts meant as trophies, clothes he approved of, jewelry he used to apologize. I packed only what belonged to me before him. When the suitcase was finished, I took one last walk through that house, through rooms filled with silence, tension, and swallowed words. A house that never felt like home. In the kitchen, near the broken plate I never cleaned up, I placed one final item, a handwritten note. Just 6 words, "You don't own me anymore." I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I walked out the front door, locked it behind me, and didn't look back, not even once. My mother met me at her porch. The moment she opened the door and saw me standing there, suitcase in hand, shoulders trembling, eyes determined, she didn't ask questions. She simply wrapped her arms around me, and for the first time in years, I felt safe. Leaving wasn't the end. Healing wasn't immediate. I carried scars, not all visible, but real nonetheless. There were nights I questioned myself, days I wondered if I made the right choice, but slowly, like flowers blooming after winter, I rebuilt myself piece by piece, and eventually I found peace. Now, when I sit on my porch in my rocking chair, watching the sky turn gold at sunset, I don't feel regret. I feel strength. Because walking away wasn't weakness, it was freedom. And if someone listening to my story today is standing at the edge of their own feeder, then let my voice reach you. You deserve a life where love does not hurt. If you want more stories like this, stories of resilience, survival, and finding yourself again, then stay close, because this isn't the last tale I have to tell.